Okay, so there's some Phoenix energy in the city this weekend. I can feel everybody's coming back alive. Summertime comes anyway, and this life would not think I would learn to dance again. Drive away, stomp hard, hips opening, knees jive. Under the Claiborne overpass, my ass is swirling round figure eights in the air with the traffic sound, gargantuan, whole world of cement drum. Country did not lend thing any but shame and many reasons not to hold me. After chemo, life removal, radiation death, global implosion, end of my family, end of my sex, dying on the couch like a fish in the dry sun, slowly. The second page, where's the second page? I wake up, 2020, 2021, stunned by the sensations of the ending world. And I am dancing myself back to life in the back row of a group of women near the Lafitte Greenway, between neighborhood gardens and concrete horizons, inside the core of the city's gourd, wrapped in taut leather, a body of its own. Everything that can fall has already fallen. Sunshine scorching just outside, shade shelter, semi-truck thundering, vibrations in my chest and jaw, elbows, pussy, and emergency resuscitation. Breast cancer often leads to divorce. Invited the pleasure of your lightning always. Body splitting, electric skin buzzing, waves of sensation. My song caught fire, throat throwing voice like ecstatic birds flying out your bedroom window, like a tree left split with a dark burnt wound, limbs torn, lost breast, like taking off a shirt. What else will I drop to the ground? Lose like weights, then rise into blue air, dance between clouds on legs of lightning. I feel, I remember your hand on me where my body is gone, a haunting pleasure's ghost, where skin used to be, my nerves draw imaginary throbbing wings. Where the love used to be is absence. Wet pain, I hear my feeling, my sweetness, blooms fissure with quake gone, ringing of fullness of breast I fed with. This body, erratic, wild, is still alive. Lick my removal line beneath green dress folds caught over my head, laughing in the restroom stall of the club where we met 10 years before. What is mine only lives outside time. Seeing now from the rear view, white knuckle brilliance through the toddler years, changing myself incrementally into soldier of the war for our survival. Quilting pieces of exhaustion to sweetness until minutes of busyness form a surface, like a horizon we slept on. I treaded my daughter's childhood in fits and starts like a terror dream, gasp upon waking, while still falling. Kicked in the head I was, kicked in the head every night in the bed by my sweet baby, overactive in exhaustion, undeterred by the once I bit her foot in delirium. Throwing furniture at 4, hospitalized at 10 for beating me, tornado of your anger mirrored the struggle she felt even from the womb. Wow. Between me and the world. She soaked the pain into her bones, too young to know it was not meant to be between us. Sherry has to pee again. Before we barrel into the dream-bending time challenge that is a mid-pandemic cross-country road trip to the place of my birth, my family's pieces barely maintaining the gravity between themselves, and some did not. I return to the sea because it is my mother. The Joshua trees are lost. The saguaros are corroding. Did they think of me on their rocky ridge before passing? What is 15 years away from home as the planet changes this rapidly? While I was shut away tending the baby whose brain felt in storms, who flooded every boat ever cradled for her, sometimes life takes from you more than anyone understands. And then what? Go back to school. This country primes you for re-entry the moment we are spat from the jaws of whatever we are spat from. Give me a fucking grief group. Give me a mountain beyond a dusky haze to contemplate. Give me 1,000 days to cry and be responsible for nothing else. The trees carefully kept in my memory are gone from the land. The names of my siblings strung in a line in all sentences of my childhood will never be spoken together again. The names in a line are a song extinct. Where is Jonathan? Okay, one more?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one is for our friend. The poet's heart stopped during a storm the day the Mississippi ran backwards. But dance with me, you did. Your hard, thick fingers dug into my hip, excavating my gaze and holding it. In our world before now, stepping in time across smooth wooden floorboards, you used your whole mind in every movement, coaxed my shy eyes with your patience. The air between us ran rough, feral animal on an open plain, while our bodies remained inside the music, held steady in tempo like an ecstasy that comes on slow, then sustains until your skin burns from a light on the inside. Fat angel feet in worn leather shoes covered in kitchen grease, pumping little prayers into the floor. Our generation was born from the armpit of a television. Now we nod out at the terminal while the country of Afghanistan reaches up to an airplane. You followed Cisco, curbside, subterranean. I'm here connecting the dots with your curl patterns from memory. Cursive line of thigh, broadside, sticky fingers, the play-by-play of filthy mattress coming alive. You visit us in hallucinatory bird songs and neon numbers. The storm passed when you did. I dig a shallow hole, and I call it the future. I go down river, the one that brought me to you. I get back in it and pull my paddle through the glue. The sun set us on fire when it set. I never want to part ways with you again. Your spirit swallowtail, your spirit viceroy, and leopard toads caught stunned outside their shadows. Spirit, I've never been much good in this body alone. Now you have none. I'll lend you my right arm and half my mind, my whole voice and most of my time. I am rowing up the river as the water reflects psychedelic star bath, wishing you'd breathe yourself into me from the inside. When the boat hits bottom, I traverse a white sandbar of crystal grains to find you like a dream, sitting on a driftwood log. the huge tree smoothed silken by the water and sun. You tell me you are sorry for not being better. You send me a hummingbird to live in my throat like a fluttering fist. I know you would do it all again, with the wisdom of an infant's lips.
Voy a hacer que volar. En la lucha, brother, y tú, super bien, man. A cacophony of Cuban and Spanishisms raining down on any passerby. Possible whether you're under the shadows of skyscraper in Little Havana, in downtown proper where people head down on their cell phones, on the beach with European or South American tourists, with Colombianism sprinkled in down Flagler, Doral of Venezuela, or anywhere in Hialeah. The kind of thing translated as Latin slang when subtitled, where live sign language translators would just shrug and pop open a cervecita in sweet defeat. Old men talking about an older country while hitting on the young barista who serves them their cafecitos, cortaditos y coladas to all these guayabera-dressed men who have nothing better to do than drink coffee and nostalgia, licking the guayaba off their fingers from past pastelitos, the sugar sticking to them as a painfully sweet reminder. They keep hitting on the barista till she loses her cool, then the bread, but keeps the knife. And we all remember who is the fucking boss. You remember Levon Hernandez's slide and two-fisted chest pound, saying, "I love you, Miami." You remember people talking bad about Contreras y El Duque, as if it was their fault they were on the island, as if only Cuban if they left the island, collecting the N at immigration. Mi nieto, ven acá. The abuelo always talks about the Bay of Pigs, talks about being the second best at everything in Cuba. He calls you just American, as if in charge of labeling in this country, as if you could tell the police officers how they toss you into a fence in midair. No, it's okay. I was born in the States. As if operation is complete in Americanization because we were exiled to Hialeah. And they keep drinking to next year in Cuba, like a pitcher who taps each side of the plate, even though they never hit the damn ball. It just makes those moments that much sweeter. At a bar called Hoy Como Ayer, named for those still in the past, the bounce of the best dressed person in the club, tape fixed an hour before his shift, the band starting late but always on time, the tambura player so drunk that two honorary members of the band have to bring up a chair and place him on it, tuning Viejito's seat balance to the seat. Viejito hiding his intoxication behind shades in the sombrero, dancing in the chair as if possessed. You remember the 03 series, Marlins win it all. In your hometown of Hialeah, people take to the streets with pots and pans, for everything is a percussion instrument for us. And you make a street parade that channels Santiago de Cuba. You shut down Calle Ocho like it's a back road in Pinar del Rio. People from Alomar are rapping all over it, and I-75 is now a parking lot. For there is no one exit here where people wouldn't get out to join, because there is no exit here for the people who are here. So they dance as they only know how, the only revolution afforded to them, in La Lucha Forever in fucking Miami. All right, that's probably as good a segue as my next piece. That last piece I read the day before the lockdown. If something bad happens tomorrow, tell me, I'll retire the piece. This other piece is a new one. I wrote it within the last 2 weeks. I think it is something going with a lot of us, wondering about New Orleans post-storm, continued climate change, continued political, let's say, ineptitude, because I'm on camera. And yeah, like my sister just moved from here, which is why she's not here. So I think a lot of people are thinking about this. So they wrote this in the last 2 weeks. You're the first person to hear it besides my dog and some muffled sounds that my partner probably heard from the door. You all should buy your drinks. It's probably been a long week. But yeah, this one is called, Is There Such a Thing as a Home You Can't Keep? I wasn't born by the river, but the river found me. Thinking of my family sitting on the levee, storm brewing over the Gulf, storm gaining strength. And I'm thinking to myself, am I stupid for staying here? Is there such a thing as a home you can't keep? Why are they always trying to wash us away? I think of Abuelo bottling sea by El Malecon, because nothing could cure a person like the water from their home. I think of Pops as a child, sleep into the sea, soundtrack of waves dreaming to be free. But that wasn't a home that could be. Politics, the powerful, washed that all away. They had no home left for them to stay. That's how I end up in Miami. That's how I end up in Miami. A riptide of a home almost took me under. Too many blunts in the air, too many rums in my belly, too many screws in my head rattled loose. Didn't matter what I took, the pain I tried to kill always came back and killed me a little quicker. Am I stupid for staying here? Is there such a thing as a home you can't keep? Why are they always trying to wash us away? I'm evacuating for the first time, thinking of what can get lost in the tide. I built a home in this spot. Left the magic city for the city that care forgot. I think of my first, second line, I-10 overpass. Music, crowd jumping up, music crashing down. Band turned us to water, we flowed through the streets. I think of my first jazz funeral. People praying for rain, because they knew when it came down, the souls came up. I remember them dancing at the end of the night in rain, giddy, victorious. I realized I was in a city I loved, the peoples I loved. I realized I was scared that I was in a city I loved, the people I loved, because it meant I had a home I could lose again. Am I stupid for loving here? Is there such a thing as a home you can't keep? Why are they always trying to wash us away? My first night back after the storm, the powerless lines create a dark heat. I think of cemeteries melting in the sea in Grand Isle. I think of second lines turning to first lines for friends lost. I think of politicians' dirty laundry piling up in front of our homes. I think of essential workers getting paid less than me, cleaning their trash up with no trucks working AC. I think of how quickly a Hopper would be voted for mayor if they had the money to run. I think of how much so many of us want to run. Am I stupid for staying here? Is there such a thing as a home you can't keep? Why are they always trying to wash us away? The next morning heat, I'm back by that river. I'm watching as the water that strengthens these storms. I think of all the love we've lost in these waters. The same waters my father lost his dreams in. The same waters Cuban refugees died looking for freedom. The same waters enslaved jumped into to try to escape bondage. The same waters I watched the ashes of my best friend bloom in. I think of how these storms strengthen off our loss and death. And I think of how the politicians and powerful weaponize that water against us, trying to make a moat between them and us. I don't know if I'm stupid for staying here. I don't know if I'm always going to be staying here. I know a house in a city is only the kind of home you would lose one day. I know they're always trying to wash us away. I just hope that those of us who stay, those of you who stay, maybe those of us who stay, will get to be out in that rain and we can recognize what's in that water. We could recognize the love of ones we've lost. We could recognize every person who's lost their life looking for freedom in that water. We could recognize every dream of our mother and fathers that have been lost in that water. We could recognize the medicines from the old countries that were lost in that water. Because if we recognize that, we know that when it rained, they all got up to where they're supposed to be. If we recognize that, then we know when the water comes down, who they're gonna wash clean and who they're gonna wash away. And then our ghosts and us can be together, loving, with a home that can stay. Thank you.
Woo! Mayor! Don't leave yourself out.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so the first one I'm going to read is called The Heat Will Come, The Cold Don't Matter. It's a poem I wrote when I was living here in New Orleans many, many years ago. And I'm just going to jump right into it and share it with y'all. I pass by streets that will never know my name. History frozen in the arid cool of dawn. My morning jog, my palm sweats, confusing the senses, the fallen leaves laden lack of fluid shade, the ground like dirt, diseased snow. This is the gravity of winter. My lungs refuse to expel the splintering sound of air escaping a tapered hose. Just yesterday, a friend told me his mother will die from the black grip on her lungs. I took another deep breath, just to be sure. The street whites of life travel by bus routes and traffic jams during the Monday rush, transporting neglected children to school. Children that don't belong. Children damaged under the weight of a fretful sun. Under the weight, jaywalking daydreamers trapped on tiny islands, studying to become doctors, lawyers, mothers, and junkies. Studying to become what the bus stops are always full. Children will grow, the heat will rise and shadow sunflowers in the middle of May. The hydrants will spray and tell the city to cool until the police kill stateside executioners, numbing over pensions, until children kill, trading in future and promise for a blood veil of something real, until the pigeons race underneath the overpass of colored folk, tracing street corners with chalk stolen from forensics, until even the sun gives up and casts a shadow over the city.
All right.
This one's titled Under Sweat Sheets. The morning rise has become an afternoon storm of ghost cloud grays and whites, smothering light dancing. Somewhere else, poetry has become you, my milk and sugar, coffee-made mornings, mist shaping raindrops into gray moons over creation. There's love kind, and then there's you. A time towards 7 moments of history made simple. It's what love can do to fools and what fools will do to love. The cascaded pink and blues across the earth's sky iris, dance of clouds speckle and rise light towards the wandering mind. The color of silence that blends our hues the way hues do when casting light on the soul. Incidentally, all of these poems are from my work, Articulate the Rise, which is pretty much chronicling the Black experience here in the South. So it gets heavy, it'll get lighter, but it'll get heavy again. This is called A Word for the Earth Mother. It's with an epitaph. Surely they must know that their deliverance depends on letting down their ropes. Only by working together is escape possible. Derek Bell. I woke in a sweat veil, 3:33 a.m., the bewitching hour, accompanied by Louisiana thunder and world boom in the world wake of protest and unsavory post-edits, blue line mixing with red. I prayed to you, the Earth Mother. A whisper to the sky blue, I prayed to you, a litany passing through the eye of a giant named Earth. You watched us make mud out of blood and water, waste oil for blessings while children hold their hands out to drink from double-edged tongues guilty of spitfire. Sometimes I wonder if you've forgotten that we are the black oil. We are the emaciated. We are weeds left to be trampled, words of degradation, worlds away from true vines. We are the forgotten means, waning frameworks of fright, wandering children of lost lands, wilting black conjurers. We have forgotten what it means to have a mother, to live within her for our survival, rooted in the soot of burning that instance refined minerals can become water. This is what suffering sounds like from the bottom of a well. The bottom of a well we built with broken hands. Being that this is the Black experience, being that we are in the South and incarceration is a problem here, I wrote one called The Legal Illegal Running Things. Charges float down the Mississippi with sediment, the sediment of ease. Charge of the charge, recycled rap sheets lay the groundwork to stone brick roads. The lion, the witch, the tin man, the scarecrow, DOCs and DICs, blue and brown jumpers from Hunts to Calhoun, Centerville to Lula, daycare to dungeon jungle, 1 inch from an organ made simply of the foundation of the nonviolent. These men are withered at the seams. Cigar rollovers cinched up at nightshade, hatchlight by hatchlight mojo made from paper mache, anything to get by, anything to quiet the stomach pains, rope a dope for the prison ward, stuffed in a balloon and swallowed. His boy needs new Jordans, rope a dope the prison warden, shake down to empty dreams. Everything out there is here, only upside down. I have children. They're great.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so this one's about my daughter, who's amazing. Can't say enough about that one. She scares me in a good way. In a good way. Summer heat, downtime burn. I'm facing it all. All that in, all that rain. My daughter smiles her way into keeping her the minutes of the day, pleasing all to herself. My memory has become the metronome of life's spark and frantic water falling sideways. I emit to the morning sun as if swinging on a cosmic flying trapeze. Star flame, the burn. The burn isn't over the eyes. It's over the residue of living between these seams, unearthed fractures of binded light, true vines made of plenty, generational graphic scarring from one posthumous to the next. Within her eyes, I see her staring at the nothing and everything. A waltz, weight, and a thundering of lives I have crossed, walked along, behind, and in front of. It's no wonder so many have come and gone, cemented still frames, to corner points of direct eye line and sunset, then my daughter's eyes. And I remember the temple of devotion and what it means to laugh at a bump in the road, to always strive to carve my name in everything beautiful in case she ever forgets her way home. If she ever needs reminding that silk looks the best when it is set free, to the heartbeat of the wind as it glances and dances under the watchful eye of a circussed sun, in case she ever needs reminding that plants root in dirt, that love roots in the fragile heart, and that the sun and the water will always be food. This next one, it's titled DAC, Latin. I got a little fancy with this one, so bear with me. All right, it comes with an epitaph that the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. The pen is an exit to everything, a silent line of the sky's red eye barely scratching horizon. I haven't noticed since last night's decorum that the ink bleeds, the time that is spilt, the reckoning. I watch the holistic rage of the infinitesimal beginnings of silk thought make its way into memories. I can't forget any longer what it means to be a forgotten hum in a slave's hymn tune. Diazia. I look back on it all, the early mornings in uniforms, mother fire and backyard struggles. Don't scruff those knees, those uniforms are expensive. Clouds haven along the tops of trees. My mother had her eyes on the fortune. We were thinking cereal and milk, morning dew, sunshine trees, that mist that accompanied the morn. We lived with my grandmother and her pink walls painted with the bitterness of a ghost in sin-soaked whiskey. Alvin, my grandfather, the two-timer with shoes that were too small for his big toes. He would shuffle them along, sparking up the electricity in the air on stubborn burba, causing the air and the hair on the walls to stand on end, poised for whatever demons he would let out. Oh, holy Sundays. The frame, from the day of witnessing fights of tooth and nail, broken faces, and the instant charring of the shadow from a man I used to look up to, engaged in the fight-time jig with a woman I used to believe was my comfort, Diazia. The adult mind has a way of making wake-up calls out of reality, jolt firing the wingtips of a childlike awe into a furnace for fading innocence. His demons were shown through the skin, animated motion of what it means to live a life you are not proud of, constant waiting in a pool of goddams and how can I ever, Diazia. I'm not sure what happened with my grandmother. It was bone deep before I can catch a glance, and what the sun hid from even her. Enslaved are a young girl's thoughts. My grandmother never aged past 16. Still that little girl, torn skirt, baby on her hip. My mother, and a glint in her eye, aimed in spite, bitterness, can turn an old bone gray and make a grandson a ghost of a man. And because he is a man, bitterness can make reflections of us all. Dancing on humid crisp and mist in the morning dew, stanzas made at the ready, splintering silently, scripting with melted fingers, Diazia. At the corner of sight and tongue, I can see it, a wintry motif, a Louisiana winter, spent wondering what cost the day would be spent for. And for the last one, let's see what one we're going to drop for you folks. Y'all have been great.
You too.
Thank you. All right. This one's What Say I? Stream, untitled, but not without drive. It's an observation I made of two individuals who were obviously in love. They were at a restaurant, and I was eardropping, just all up in their business. So I wrote this conversational piece. Pheromonial, matrimonial, a testimonial of contractual, perpetual purpose. Love is an evasive totality of structure within the flaws, dubbed fabric, wilted at pace with all things that are dying. Two lovers sat staring with admiration at a future of themselves swirling in a sniffer. Two snow globes without a maker. Two faces of smoke in glass mirrors, fires of flesh, bone made easy, water to pilfer thoughts. Smiled heavy dancing, the lovers dance. Candid performers, this evening at dinner. We see them, don't we? Safe in the ins and the outs, night-branded pigments, speckled ghost forest in the trees, beautiful reels made from the seed. We see them, don't we? Fire and safe in night, blanketed and still, two lovers, favored in the sweet flavor of life, and what it seems to stare into light that isn't ours. A dream, I dreamt, drifting off as quiet as a monarch in the midnight firmament. Thank you, guys.
This is amazing. I miss New Orleans every day, and it's so great to be back and to see so many people that I love and miss Hey, Grayson.
Hey.
Hey. Hi, DeWitt. Hi, Brooke. Hi, Brett. This is awesome. Thank you to Jonathan, of course, for continuing to champion the work that me and Vince keep doing for some reason. And I wish he was here so badly. This night, I guarantee you, this night would go a lot differently if Vince was here. But even as Chris said, and thank you, Chris, for reading. Thank you to Laura. Thank you, Charles. That was amazing from all of you. So amazing. Thank you so much. Even if, as Chris said, the ghost of Vince is here, that will still, I think, lift us up. Because I definitely feel that. I'd also like to just say that this book and this reading is dedicated to Michelle, who accepted the first book that Vince and I wrote together in 2014, just a sort of unsolicited blind submission to Unlikely Books. And Michelle Greenblatt, who was the poetry editor of Unlikely Books at the time, said to Jonathan, "We have to accept this." And she was the most amazing person and editor that anyone could ever ask for. So this is dedicated to her. So I did want to say to Tom, there is in the first poem of the book, a little Easter egg for you, my friend. I won't mention what it is, but surely, if you're paying attention.
Hopefully I'll pick up on it.
So the first poem in the book is called Solastalgia, which is not a neologism that I made up. It's a term that refers to sort of a feeling of loss or displacement that you feel whenever you no longer recognize your home, when it's not recognizable. And it has a somewhat lengthy epigraph from Richie Blink. Solastalgia. We would come out to the floodgates, and my dad would say, "Head for the lemon trees." The older folks always discouraged us from going out of respect. The legend goes that you were always to bring some kind of sacrifice, so somebody left some lemons for the ancestors. But now that it's washing away, it needs to be seen before it gets lost. Richie Blink, from Louisiana's disappearing coast, takes ancient history with it. 89.9 WWNO, New Orleans Public Radio. It's easy to imagine Richie Blink on the radio, unblinking when he cants, opening words like floodgates or my dad. And when he says say, then lemon trees, something as simple as going really goes. It's even easier to conjure the young ones squinting at the sun, soliciting spirits alive in the blood the old folk left. When he says respect or sacrifice. But when legend slips out of his mouth, it sounds like ancestor, like washed away, like lost. I say, selfishly, before the final island disappears, let's tell a story, every story of home, that lives in the static on every station. Let's get away with everything while we're still slow in the process of disappearing. Let's head for the lemon trees. Pluck the fruit, pluck yesterday, pluck ancient history, pluck today. In that distance, the past glistens, a floating house shaping its own shore, the way an opened letter tucked in a drawer in a previous life wants another tongue. Yesterday's splintered limbs say, don't let this be the last memory of me. Head for the trees, make an offering. If the waves lap at the door, let us swim. If the sky is never finished, nothing is. Port sharks. Your lives leap from your lines, spring from staying put on a porch. Junky, littered like a beatnik's, all skags and mugs, which would make me feel at home in Greensboro. Because let's face it, we fled. I'll jam the butt of any inquiry in an improvised ashtray, maybe a cloudy piece of Tupperware left out for a few days, to feed another likely stray like it fed me many times before. Even vagrants can't stay put too many years. Louisiana permanence, haha, as if, grasping for everything that slithered further away. Then the magic hand of chance medley. Staying put is a subtle mindfuck to master. Inside the self, outside ever land, there's a shipwrecked sun searching the wake endlessly for shark teeth singing. Any poem about any river. You always dam up my sharks, lose them or loose them in the nearest battleship-shaped river, or any poem about any river. I realize now, maybe for the first time, maybe the 50th, you have always attempted, somewhere on this map we've remade again and again, though cannot name, to allow me a more pleasant swim. The exception is always. Sharing the same map, we had to make a home in the legend, because we had to stop staying put on the porch. Just today, Sarah and I traveled toward a cat an hour away in Raleigh, dying of cancer, just to talk options with his dog. The map app voiced its list of indiscriminate sentences at a low volume on Sarah's iPhone. And to avoid every toll, we had to listen to Brett Kavanaugh's opening statements, just for a distraction. I wish I could say otherwise, but sometimes the light holding us is made of teeth. Sometimes stars are sharks, lost in any river crossed. Sometimes stars are sharks, most times actually, a ball of burning fangs, they have to move to breathe, twinkle twice razor rows of teeth, swim to grieve, or to bring grief, at the speed of light. Really the speed of death too, if you think as fast as you feel about it. Both constants we urchin behind, with our little human spines and bottom-feeding mouths fossilizing doubt, begetting all these fragile everythings. And sometimes sharks are stars, just as gravity's an aardvark. And mortal tolls are the only boundaries for a school of stellar predators, migrating across sky charts, 5 dorsal fins circling dust. I swear I had this all mapped out.
You still do.
There it is.
Now you ship
got
it.
Here Comes the Rain. I'd like to dedicate this poem to Brock because he helped me with it a lot. Here comes the rain. Between the sea and the salt marsh, my in-laws' bijou beach house squats on stilts, above a thicket of cordgrass and bluestem, where for the last 2 nights some critter hidden from my phone's dim flashlight in the brush below the back deck has made its noise toward the water. It's Mother's Day. Sarah's mom sits on the deck, reading while she reclines in a plastic Adirondack. Sarah, silent beside her, does the same. A book on women surrealists held up awkwardly to block the sun. The kids couched, gripped by the unflinching eye of an iPad. So I step out to ask the mothers if they'd prefer I go to the closest grocery for cinnamon and vanilla. I'd promise to cook French toast. Appetite doesn't demand it, Sarah says. Her mother's nod agrees. I point out a kettle of hawks sporting the blue above a lone cormorant. the span of its unfolded wings meant to intimidate any predators. Sarah nudges past me to grab the binoculars that belong to the house. When she's finished, she passes them to me and returns to the tabled book. I fumble to adjust the settings, scan the scar of land jutting out from the marsh, but can't spot cormorant. Instead, I find the American flag at the edge of the neighbor's deck. Last night, after everyone else had gone to bed, a strange shadow whipped back and forth across the marsh. I didn't know right away what the black swath belonged to, but when I attached shadow to flag, I wished I had the drugs needed to help me see it, to face or forget whatever it might have meant. I mentioned this to Sarah, make my noise toward the kitchen. At the oven, I'm still holding the binoculars. Dizzy from looking through their lenses, I stumble back to the deck, hand them over. Then I notice the sky blurring a bit, swearing an oath to rain clouds, and remember that roar we'd heard at the beach the last 2 days, like the sky was shedding its skin. We thought at first it had to be plains hidden by clouds, a rumble of thunder, but there were no clouds at all. I thought of what Jack Kerouac said about the sea, which I read on the little square of embroidery decorating the toilet in the guest bathroom. That it must be the roar of eternity. I think now there must be a major insinuation I'm missing. Now, the moment when the rain begins to come down. Thank you. Roaring an oath to rain clouds. My binocs broke before Jack, like when we all fell out of love with Nil after he dosed us the last time. We thought our lovers were capable of embroidering eternity, finding surrealists in the sun, solving a generous family feud in the sand, or making princely pancake without vanilla or cinnamon, neighbors without freighters, feathers without a flag. We weld the tunnel while the gods sleep. All we need is to need it all. Said the night at intermission. It's one of those days I never had before the move. I pour a cheap beer in a fancy glass, wait at the antique table falling apart in the kitchen, while Sarah finishes Finn's bedtime routine. My ritual of reading having ended, as it does, with a kiss, I sit and try to recall the name of the tropical bird painted in fiery streaks across my fancy glass, but never can. In the oppressive electric light of a kitchen at night, I elicit instead a specific sachet of memory, not recollected as if from a past life regression, more alive and well than that, more breathing now than then, as if the night itself has drilled into my skull in intermission, to make room, to glorify its own not-so-gruesome operation. And this memory springs dancing from the burr hole, like so. There is a strange woman in the kitchen. She creeps like wild wallpaper, or a flicker of sun against cut flowers when a window of trees invites it in. Floorboards creak beneath her boots as a stage for her sort of performance would. In a moment, I'll flick a flake of crusted skin from her forehead. She'll frown. For now, she's happy to stop changing clothes every 5 minutes, to walk a goofy walk, and she won't stop. She can't until I believe in its beauty. It's easy to get distracted from couch and book if you are an audience of one. I give her the typical green light giggle we both need to hit pivot past our own darkening eruptions. Then she's off to find the perfect sweater skirt combo. In a moment, she'll be gone to meet a friend, to booze through afternoon. Veronica. Sitting by the window at Molly's Irish pub, she'll become something the sun shimmies by. For now, she's happy to be a strange woman, creeping over the kitchen's creaky boards, as beautiful, as wild, as strange, as light, as flower, as paper, as I am grateful. And look now, here she comes. So Dagger was supposed to come with me on this trip, and it just couldn't work. So a few of these I'm definitely reading for her. This one is called Snaggletooth. Snaggletooth. I'm already questioning whether or not I can get away with using that word. If I can say Snaggletooth and be taken seriously. But that's what Sarah said when she got back to Greensboro from her new job an hour out of town. Look at my snaggletooth, she said, broke biting my thumbnail. Surely I should mention a few key facts if I want Snaggletooth to sail. It was her first day on the job, for example, and her nerves were something like a shipwreck after our move from New Orleans. No one could blame her for taking any action against anxiety she had at her fingertips, as the day's images danced past, as the pines lining the highway scrolled across the window of her Yaris. I'll just go ahead and say central incisors to establish that her front teeth, the upper two, have both been fake since 6th grade. Her dentist decided she must have swum underwater, her thin lips parted so often the chlorine nearly gnawed the enamel to pulp. Now I wonder if I should lie, say that Sarah was driving to work rather than home, to invite you to see her stand behind a podium. Look, staged right, most of her central incisor is missing. New students, terrible eyes gawking. Sarah keeps forgetting to stop parting her lips when, every few seconds, she smiles. But now it looks like I can't avoid the truth. Now when Sarah glides across the room to find me at the table's dark corner, and after she leans over for a kiss, asks about my dreams like she does, her warm breath heavy with sleep, she skims that last bit about the lie, promptly informs me that actually she had been on her way to work, then suggests I add in a few key facts I hadn't planned on providing. I wonder if I can fit in the dream I had last night. A dream Sarah didn't ask about because I made that part up. She does ask me often about my dreams, but she didn't this morning. And this morning I woke from a dream in which I shit my pants. Even stumbled through the dark hall to the bathroom, wiped my ass. It was the first time I'd ever had that dream. I remember nothing else. And when I wiped my ass, there was nothing there. I guess that's all I'll say about it. Which likely means I don't need to bring it up at all. That I should probably focus on Sarah's snaggletooth. But it looks like I'm failing. Or is it flailing? So maybe I'll start to wrap this up. Tell you that once the tooth was replaced with a new porcelain temporary, Sarah broke it biting, central incisors first, into an apple a week later. And she happened to be on the way home to Greensboro from her new job an hour out of town. But at this point, if you're still listening, how can you believe anything I say? If you believe I ever wanted you to believe I was always telling the truth, yes, I have failed, or one of us has. I just wanted to invite you to see Sarah holding her broken tooth as she drove home, to see it resting on the bed of an awkward palm so she wouldn't lose it. I wanted you to see her saunter in minus a tooth, and if you haven't yet, to see her lips part to make room for her smile. Then, just after, to hear her say, snaggletooth. To feel something like gratitude when I tell you now she eats everything with the corner of her mouth. Careful not to be too hungry to forget. But really, sometimes I just need to let someone know how she makes me flail, which feels something like smiling underwater, a mouthful of pool held at the ready, to squirt between my teeth, still smiling when I come up for air. Porch beers versus the bore of existential fears. What are our friends in New Orleans doing right now? That's the question I ask Sarah sometimes after a few beers on the porch. Tonight, as I crack the fourth, Sarah her second. For a moment, she just rocks on the swing, smiles, sips her Peroni, sips again. I suggest we make it a game, play pretend. Sarah decides she'll take Jordan and Veronica. I opt for Adrian and Darcy. Adrian prepares lasagna. His hands zombie hover over boiling noodles. Darcy in the den prepares Sunday's sermon on the joy of creativity. Jordan is mixing a stiff martini in a mason jar. Veronica shimmies over with 2 fat olives, plops them in, gives his ass a little pat. The game goes on like this for maybe 10 minutes. A few friends are drunk, more than one sporting a ragged pair of assless chaps. None getting away with anything we wouldn't. We swallow a long drink, both of us slow and deliberate, like a song had insisted we do it. I check our phones to see which has the most life. Put on the Spotify playlist Sarah made for Halloween, our last in New Orleans. Depeche Mode's Ghost creeps up, and we're out of beers. I haunt the house for something darker. A spent can becomes an easy ashtray. On nights like this, we burn through a whole pack with little shame. I mentioned Vince, who always says skags for cigarettes. But Vince just moved to Delft maybe a month ago. He can't be a part of our little game. What the hell's Vince doing in Delft? I ask anyway. Yeah, are Peyton and Ryan in Richmond? Sarah asks, grabbing the bottle before I'm ready to give it up. But we've both had enough. So this poem goes out to all my St. Martin's folks that are in the audience, which is awesome. It's so amazing to see you. This is called Unrepentant Caverns. Now I'm in New Orleans, drifting off in a private school's chapel service, holding a thought that only God is godless, as the monstrously large organ pipes whine behind me. When I imagine a passenger plane crashing through the boringly batless rafters where the organ pipes rise, toward the vaulted ceiling's polished wood at the back of the chapel. And I'm reminded how much the pipes look like stalagmites, maybe fingers of stone. Fingers with so many knobby knuckles, it's as if they belong to an ancient witch buried beneath a cave's dream. So long ago, somehow they've grown so monstrously large, a massive hand has managed to crack through the stone floor only to always point up. And I wonder how it would feel to always be pointing, to be in one place, forever pointing up toward what will always point down. And now when I slide my own fingers over the shifting shapes lining the floor of my failing memory, I remember every strange finger that I saw glisten with fresh water dripping from the roof of the cave I toured once at Silver Dollar City when I was a kid. And now when I'm remembering how weird it was, a cave was hidden under an amusement park that 300 feet above, where the stalactites dripped their years of slow drips down from the dark ceiling, was the roar of roller coasters, so many screams. I remember how weird it was. No one said a thing about how weird that was. That the tour guide just kept pointing up at all the glistening stone, like tiny lights clicking infinitely on and off. And when I recall the cold of that cave, it's a breath on the back of my neck. But now, when I shift in my seat, the imagined passenger plane crashes again, big white nose first, through the batless rafters. And now, as the wood splinters down over the crowd of students and teachers, I have one of those out-of-body experiences, I guess, because I'm floating out over the pew, full of singing kids, and I see myself down there, sitting songless, sucking cinnamon Altoids 2 at a time. And as the charming priest is beginning his sermon on the dangers of drugs, the plane no one notices continues crashing through, slow motion style, without sound. And now, as I'm not a bit surprised how suddenly my wingspan is unbelievable, how easy learning to fly is, I'm back in the pew again, sitting with the singing kids again, and I can't see myself fly up there, ready to catch the plane in my palm, to save all the oblivious kids from all their invisible screams. And now the priest pauses, a priestly pause, to sharpen his tongue against the kids, and the pulpit becomes a box of bats that fly up to hang from the rafters, and I'm so still, I feel I've always been a finger made of stone. So I'm going to read a couple more from the book. Yep. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. A couple more from the book, and I was going to read one more from a new project. Is that all right?
I think they want us to clear out of here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're getting kicked out.
I mean, not yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're all time on it, whatever.
Okay.
It goes over, it's whatever.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Do it. We got a captivated audience. Why fuck with it?
I agree. It also goes to 9, which is 10 minutes from now.
Yeah.
Spring quarantine. I wondered if my wife snapped a quick pic of me, sprawled out beside her on the lawn. It seemed like an opportunity to get a good shot. Legs stretched, booted feet crossed, hands tucked behind my head, tilting the gray Carhartt hat down over my eyes to block what little sun there was. Last year's Best American Poetry open face down on my chest. Quarantine, the pithy Instagram caption could read. Or maybe the poet dozes away, another apocalypse. I wanted her to snap the pic, but I didn't want to say it. I didn't want a single word to fall from a single mouth. Not only because I wanted her to think I was asleep, I just wanted her to know, somewhere in her beautiful blood, I just wanted something to happen, to fall naturally into place. We're not talking anyway, not about anything other than COVID-19 anyway. Singing its monstrous aria, or trying to, over the sui generis notes of spring, which is why I was on the lawn in the first place. I had to face the facts. Yesterday was the first day of spring. Last night brought the first spring rain. Before my wife sat beside me, she was on the porch, the light wind holding her like a kind of triage for what the wind might prescribe in whatever crueler months come to stumble us. When she saw me, she drifted down to the damp grass with her stack of ungraded papers. I still don't know if she snapped a pic on her phone of me pretending to sleep. I'll ask her when we're talking again about anything. Now, hours later, seems like days. She's on the phone with her brother, checking in to see how his business in Maine is faring against the virus. They spend a long time talking about the repeated failures of their father and older brother to make amends. Then my wife mentions their grandfather, a World War II hero. He was someone, she says, who saw the end of the world, then lived past it. Now it's raining again, harder somehow, because Mark, our neighbor and friend, is back from visiting his mother at the hospital. I wonder if it's safe to be around him now as I'm reading a text he just sent about rethinking our buddy status during quarantine. I wonder what iniquity will mean tomorrow, the third day of spring. I wonder if my wife will snap, or me. Try to forget how to begin any sentence with when. The rain stopped for now. I need to brave the store for bread and beer. First, I'll move the box of sidewalk chalk from the driveway. I don't want to ruin one of our daughter's distractions. Her son is already a yellow smear across the concrete, a broken yoke left to gather an army of ants, and I'm no war hero. wounded soldier. Wanted to write you a poem. Instead, I have to paint a porch. There are fish guts everywhere, and my heart's on the subway floor rolling around with the other empties spilling over. Thank you, everyone, so much. I was just going to end with one fairly brief poem from a new project I'm working on that I'm very excited about. And the end of this book that I just read always sort of tears me up a little bit in terms of thinking about this conversation with Vince, and that is something that is always going on, right? It's just not this thing right here. By the way, I read only the really bad poems, so if you wanted to read the good ones, you have to buy the book from Jonathan after the reading. He is available to sell them to you for $200 a piece. This is called Missed Calls. When I miss a call from my father, I imagine him standing in the palm of a river. An arcane sadness sandbagged behind the years that followed him there. And there, white sky, he sees a window grow wild on the horizon. Then another and another and again. Glass hanging in wooden frames held up by nothing. Any ghost invited to enter or exit the absence of walls. This happens every time. And every time, it's my fault. Everything that drags the riverbed snared in one net. The poverty of an old cul-de-sac snagged on drunken fists. 6 siblings, his mother's murder, his decision to leave when I was born. 6 years gone, winter was for forgetting. I listen to the usual voicemail. I remember to float beyond this, to try to. Like a dream that teaches you how to fly. I had that dream often after my father came back. Forget the rules for a second, you're sure to fall. Don't fly any higher than the telephone poles. Now try the trees. The branches stretched over enough river to save you. Stay safe, the voicemail repeats. Stay safe. The same simple imperative my brother gets with every missed call. My brother who climbs cell towers for a living, who all day sighs like death. Looking down from 200 feet, I wonder what he imagines. If he swears he's seen a mystic sadness, its massive wings shadow over the shapes of the city below, as if twin rivers flowed above it. If in dreams he follows our father with feathery arms, listening for his name, waiting to be called into the sky. Thank you so much.